So for this video, I wanted to talk more about King. So King's identity, what King's based on, what his abilities could be, and then talking a bit more about the Lunarian race, its origins, and why they were extinct. So I want to cover all that sorts of stuff. So if you guys are excited for this video, be sure to go and like and subscribe to the channel. I do weekly theories and discussions on One Piece, as well as chapter reviews and reactions. Firstly, I'd like to go and answer a big question in regards to King, that for me, it helped me a lot in figuring out what the character's abilities could potentially be. And that was, what is King's character based on? It's been noted on numerous accounts that Oda likes to base his characters off celebrities and actors in pop culture. I believe that King's inspiration comes from the Godzilla series. King's ancient Zoan devil fruit looks to be based on the popular Japanese monster Rodan, as seen in Godzilla and other monster films. The appearance of Rodan is quite similar to King's Zoan form, but what's more interesting is that Rodan in the Godzilla series has a form which is referred to as Fire Rodan, and we know that King has fire-based abilities as well. His main abilities focus on speed and agility, with usage of his beak and talons as effective weapons in combat. These are the exact methods of attack that King uses in battle. Rodan is able to shoot radioactive heat beams out of his mouth for effective damage. Now, I find it unlikely that King would use any sort of radioactive abilities, but definitely fire beams. In the Godzilla series, Rodan forms an alliance with Godzilla, who was known as the King of the Monsters. Having the name King would be a cheeky fun way to add more inspiration and acknowledgement to King's character. So now that we know that King is based off of Rodan from the Godzilla series, I want to go and answer a very popular theory that's been tossed around in the One Piece community regarding King. And that was, if King is actually a former warden of Impel Down. This theory was brought to light on a number of different factors. Firstly, King's uniform has a striking resemblance to Shiryu of the Rain, down to the skulls on the shoulders. We know that Shiryu was a warden of Impel Down, so them sharing the same uniform gives credit to King being a former warden. They both share the same nature of being extremely dangerous and bloodthirsty, as well as both being strong swordsmen. This is a very interesting connection that may end up answering more questions not only for King, but for Shiryu of the Rain as well. Since we are still mostly in the dark about Blackbeard and his crew's motives, having more answers to Shiryu would be huge for theorists like myself as we get more into Blackbeard's story. Now, I don't think it is a coincidence about how much King looks like Shiryu. I mean, they wear pretty much the exact same uniforms down to a T, down to the skulls on their shoulders. So I believe there's definitely a connection to Shiryu, whether it's him being a warden of Impel Down. Do I personally believe that he's a former warden? I just find it funny that they wouldn't directly acknowledge that in the first place, considering that he has the identical uniform. So if it's not being said and it's being kept some sort of secret reveal, then it's going to be a bit lackluster if it is. So I think there might actually be some other sort of tie between Shiryu and King that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a warden of Impel Down. But I mean, we'll find out eventually. I just think it's very odd that they have the exact same uniform. There's definitely a connection between them. Okay, so now we're going to move over to King's clan of Lunarians and why they were extinct and what exactly happened to the Lunarians in the first place. King's clan of Lunarians is said to be extinct, with King as the last remaining member of the clan. Now, I do not believe this, and I believe that there are still more Lunarians out in the world. Whether King knows this or not, I'm not so sure of, but I would think that there are Lunarians being kept hostage for experimental purposes with Vegapunk to extract their Lunarian DNA to be placed in artificial devil fruits. But with that being said, there's still a question yet unanswered, and that's why the Lunarians were made extinct. As mentioned in my previous Lunarian theory video, my belief is that the Lunarian race were a big part of the Void Century War, forming the red line with their fire-based abilities and creating God's land, where the 5 elders now reside. Once the tides had turned in the Void Century War, the Lunarians were hunted down, captured, and experimented on for their unknown DNA. The wildfire's first flame would have been brought up from a young age by Vegapunk, conducting constant experiments and testing to harness his Lunarian DNA with ancient devil fruit infusion to become the ultimate guard dog, able to use his powerful abilities for massive benefits, such as potentially being a Warden in Impel Down. Now, the next question that I want to ask, and it's a question that's been plaguing my mind, and I know it's been plaguing all of your minds, and it regards King's appearance. Does King have curly eyebrows? Queen joking that Sanji is Lunarian might not be such a joke after all, as there are some interesting parallels to King and Sanji as seen in the most recent chapters. We know that the Vinsmoke family possesses a massive reputation in the One Piece underworld, with Queen taking interest in Sanji's abilities. The Vinsmokes were experimented on as children to become the ultimate soldiers, with Sanji deemed as a failure by his father Judge. We are now beginning to witness more of Sanji's abilities grow, and with Sanji's flame-based abilities not fully explained, Sanji receiving Lunarian DNA would be the answer to this long-running question. The conclusion to this theory would be King having curly eyebrows, and if King didn't have a mask to cover his face, we would know his connection to Sanji immediately. A reason as to why his face is covered, other than to hide a story reveal, would be if his mouth and jaw are disfigured due to the years of experiments on his fire-based abilities. Like I mentioned earlier, Rodan uses radioactive heat blasts from his mouth as a way of attack. Perhaps King's mouth and jaw are burned and disfigured from using his attack constantly in experiments. Having King's face being hidden due to his eyebrows being curly wouldn't make sense for his character, unless he did this to give more fear to his appearance, as having curly eyebrows would totally not make him intimidating whatsoever. Now, as you can imagine with the King character, there is a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack. And King isn't doing us any favors by not saying anything whatsoever, because we all know he is such big on his dialogue. He has the most top tier dialogue you have ever heard. He just is a chatterbox. For me, the inspiration that Oda gave for King being from Rodan and Godzilla makes all the sense whatsoever, because the devil fruit looks identical to Rodan. It uses its beak and talons like Rodan does. Rodan is a fire-based creature, and King has those abilities as well. And then you have the nice little cheeky tie-in where you have Godzilla referred to as the king of the monsters, and then you can name King King. So it's a nice way of tying back to the original inspiration. Not to mention that Godzilla is such a massive piece of Japanese media, so it makes perfect sense that there would be some sort of inspiration from Godzilla. But with King being a potential warden to Impel Down, that is the one that I'm not totally sure about. That's a massive question mark for me. Again, like I said before, having the sort of reveal of him being from Impel Down and they're wearing the same uniform, it's such an obvious thing that for them not to acknowledge it in the first place is a little bit weird. You think they would say it first and foremost. So if they're going to reveal it, we're going to be like, yeah, well, duh, he's wearing the same uniform as Shiryu is in Impel Down. So I think it's probably deeper than that. Whether there is a direct connection with Shiryu and King, that's not just from them working in the same place. I think there might be a deeper meaning between them both. I am honestly hoping that King ends up being like an absolute drop-dead, gorgeous, pretty boy. That's what I want for the King character. I think that'd be absolutely hilarious. Because Oda does such a great job of subverting our expectations. You know, what about when Gear 4 Luffy was revealed? We thought it was going to be so epic looking, but at first glance, it looks so ridiculous with him in his appearance. And the same with Katakuri as well, being such a sweet tooth. I mean, all the characters have them same sort of quirks, so I'd imagine that King would be the same sort of way. And because King has been developed as such an intimidating, fearful, terrifying character that has a face that has never been seen, I would just absolutely love if, say for example, they show him with curly eyebrows and he's with Zoro and Zoro would just lose it because he constantly keeps talking about his curly eyebrows. So if he did have curly eyebrows, that would be the best reveal. I would absolutely lose it if that's to happen. I really hope it does. Other than that, I'd love it if he was just an absolute pretty boy, because that'd be super hilarious too, because he's such a scary, intimidating character that it would just fit so well. But I do believe that other than all the funny business that could happen with King's appearance and his character, I do definitely think that there is a darker theme with the Lunarian race. It seems like it's details that have been rummaged around through the underworld, and that leads back to Vegapunk. So it makes total sense if there are these cast of characters, if there's this clan that has these special abilities that have been hidden away from everybody else in the world, he's the last of his kind, that there would be some sort of tie back into Vegapunk. So those are my thoughts and speculation for King and the Lunarian race. Do you guys agree with my points, or do you have some suggestions of your own? Let me know in the comments section. I'd love to go and see them. And also, I want to say thank you to everybody who's been subscribing to the channel. It's been awesome to see the channel grow so fast. I've been having so much fun making these videos, and to see so many new faces on board, it really makes me happy. So thanks for supporting me, and I hope you guys enjoy the new content. I hope you guys all have an awesome day. Take care, and I'll see you all on the next one.